we've discussed a little bit about poverty and perspective, it's time for us to dig deeper within this journey of cultivating hope where you're planted. Today, we're going to look at a biblical model for asset-based community development or asset-based ministry. Our assets, those things we have at our disposal, our gifts, talents, resources. In order for us to start, we're going to take a start at the beginning. So I'm actually going to take some time to read from Genesis 1, and I'm going to read in the Message translation, actually out of one of my journaling Bibles. And I chose the Message translation because here's a bit of a confession. When it's scripture that I tend to know, I don't always fully listen to it when it's being read. I don't always pay as much attention when it's scripture I'm familiar with. So it helps me to hear it or read it from a different translation to fully understand what it might be saying. Maybe you don't have that problem, but if you do, this might be helpful for you as well. So hear these words from Genesis 1, beginning with verse 1. First, this. God created the heavens and earth. All you see, all you don't see. Earth was a soup of nothingness, a bottomless emptiness, an inky blackness. God's spirit brooded like a bird above the watery abyss. God spoke, light, and light appeared. God saw that light was good, and separated light from dark. God named the light day, he named the dark night. It was evening, it was morning, day 1. God spoke sky, in the middle of the waters, separate water from water. God made sky. He separated the water under sky from the water above sky. And there it was. He named sky the heavens. It was evening, it was morning, day 2. God spoke, separate, water beneath heaven, gather into one place, land appear. And there it was. God named the land earth. He named the pooled water ocean. God saw that it was good. God spoke, earth, green up, grow all varieties of seed-bearing plants, every sort of fruit-bearing tree. And there it was. Earth produced green seed-bearing plants, all varieties, and fruit-bearing trees of all sorts. God saw that it was good. It was evening, it was morning, day 3. God spoke, lights, come out, shine in heaven's sky, separate day from night, mark seasons and days and years. Lights in heaven's sky to give light to earth, and there it was. God made 2 big lights, the larger to take charge of day, the smaller to be in charge of night. And he made the stars. God placed them in the heavenly sky to light up earth and oversee day and night, to separate light and dark. God saw that it was good. It was evening, it was morning, day 4. God spoke, swarm ocean with fish and all sea life. Birds fly through the sky over earth. God created the huge whales, all the swarm of life in the waters, and every kind and species of flying birds. God saw that it was good. God blessed them, prosper, reproduce, fill ocean. Birds reproduce on earth. It was evening, it was morning, day 5. God spoke, earth, generate life, every sort and kind, cattle and reptiles and wild animals, all kinds. And there it was. Wild animals of every kind, cattle of all kinds, every sort of reptile and bug. God saw that it was good. God spoke, let us make human beings in our image, make them reflecting our nature so they can be responsible for the fish in the sea, the birds in the air, the cattle, and yes, earth itself, and every animal that moves on the face of earth. God created human beings. He created them godlike, reflecting God's nature. He created them male and female. God blessed them. Prosper, reproduce, fill earth, take charge. Be responsible for fish in the sea and birds in the air, for every living thing that moves on the face of earth. Then God said, I've given you every sort of seed-bearing plant on earth, and every kind of fruit-bearing tree, given them to you for food. To all animals and all birds, everything that moves and breathes, I give whatever grows out of the ground for food. And there it was. God looked over everything he had made. It was so good, so very good. It was evening, it was morning, day 6. Creation, it was good, so very good. Did you catch how God made everything? And God said it was good. God created and organized out of abundance, not scarcity. Now, it's not denying needs or the fact that we live in a hurting and broken world. It's starting with what is right and good and changing the dynamics. What we're talking about here isn't to be confused with some take on the prosperity gospel, because that's not this. This is a look at how God created and said it was good. Yet in our human nature, we know we're able to mess it up. We look at the inadequate, the scary, the scarce, the things that are missing that aren't there. It's easy for us to jump into those gaps instead of seeing what's around us, instead of seeing the abundance and the assets. How many times have you heard, or maybe even said yourself, something like, if we only had more people, more money, more space, we could do fill in the blank. If we only had this, then we could accomplish that. It's like that old question of, do you see the glass half full or half empty? How we approach what's around us might sound like a pretty simple concept. I mean, it is, at least on the surface. It's easy for us to know it in our minds, but in order to be truly effective in ministry and reaching out to our communities, in order to be what God calls us to be, we need to hold on to this idea of asset-based ministry, this concept of abundance, and we need to believe it in our hearts. One pretty boiled down, easy to remember way of looking at assets is to consider your own. Think about it in terms of your hand, your head, and your heart. Your hand, the physical assets, things that you are good at doing. Your head, the knowledge that you have. And your heart, what are your passions? What would you do if time and money weren't an issue? What would you do if you knew you would be successful? You see, we all have assets and strengths. And the Bible is filled with scripture that shows us the abundance and strengths of God's people. Think about Moses and the manna. There was always more than enough, right? How about Jesus and the multiplication of the loaves and fish? This is the only miracle to show up in all 4 Gospels besides the resurrection. So I think we can take that as a cue that we need to pay attention to it. This concept of asset-based ministry really isn't that extreme. It just calls for us to rethink our perspective and train our minds to look a different way. Instead of seeing what we need or pointing out what's missing, it's a reframing of sorts. It's moving from a place of looking at what's not there to a place that's seeing what we have at our disposal. It's more people-focused and less program-focused, because people are our greatest resources. It's watching our word choices. Instead of saying, this person needs a place to live, they want to get off the street, it's saying, this person hopes for a safe, affordable place to live. You see, almost every need is actually the mirror image of its better self. This takes a shift in our approach and our attitude. And it's important for us as we continue looking at how we can cultivate hope where we're planted. Because we all have gifts, talents, and resources God created, and it was very good. That means each and every one of us has something that we can offer and bring to the table. And the neighbors around us have something that they can offer too. The question is, have we identified the things we're good at? Have we asked others what they might want to be involved in? This is where we need to begin as we continue moving forward with cultivating hope.